Kelly Hill with RCR Wireless News. I'm here with Tapingo CEO Daniel Almog, and we are going to be talking about the Tapingo mobile application, which was just launched this week at the University of Arizona and Northern Arizona University. Daniel, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Okay, so tell us about the app and what it does.
So the app solves a really ancient and incredibly simple problem. It solves the problem of how we buy things as consumers in crowded places. I think since ancient Egypt, we've been doing it the exact same way. We look around, we see a bunch of stuff that's available. We think about what we want, where we want to go. We go fight for our spot in line. We wait. We end up bartering with some kind of a cashier, and ultimately the cashier fulfills our order, and there's more waiting. And every part of that process is kind of old and broken in the modern world. You think we have all the technology to solve it, and so our app aims to do that. It lets people basically select anything they want to buy around them, and it sends the order directly to the vendor so that they can fulfill the order, and you go and pick it up, and you don't have to wait at all.
And so do the universities have like a special line for folks who are using the app, or how does that work in terms of implementation?
So implementation depends on the merchant. Every merchant has its own operating flow, and we entered the space very naively, not really understanding kind of the physical, dirty details of what it's like to fulfill a coffee order at a Starbucks or a burger at a fast food restaurant. It turns out that it's super complicated, and we aim always to fit right in. So you go to Starbucks, you make an order, you give them your name, and at some point they're going to call your name or your order number, and you go and pick it up. So that's a great way for us to work. If you go to a Subway, you might go and walk down an aisle and point out at different things that you want in your sandwich, and then you go and you pay at the end. And when you order on Tapingo, we'll send a receipt to the beginning, and the food preparer will just look over the receipt as she walks down that same aisle, and at the end where the cashier is sitting will be prepared food for you to pick up. So it depends on the type of venue, lots of different ways for lots of different venues, but our philosophy in Tapingo is always try to maintain the existing operations, because we tend to do a lot of orders. We're a service that doesn't aim to do 1 or 2 or 5 orders a day at a restaurant. We'll try to do hundreds of orders a day at a restaurant and achieve a significant percentage of the merchant's volume. And in that kind of really high-paced, fast environment, you really need to be very closely tuned in on the operational flow of the existing operational flow of the merchant.
So in the university setting, how do students find out about this app?
So yeah, we do launch on college campuses. It's really a perfect environment to launch in. First of all, there's not a lot of places to go. So when we sign up, basically, when we sign up at university, we basically sign up all the places that you could buy. And the initial way we get students to use the app is signage inside of the stores. We have sometimes even the cashiers are wearing Tapingo shirts because they prefer it also when they get these nice, convenient, efficiently placed orders. And so at the start, it's a little bit of legwork to get people to use the app, but the beautiful part of Tapingo is that ultimately there's a nice little viral engagement cycle. The app itself isn't social, but waiting in line is a social experience, and so every time you wait in line and you see some guy wearing, dancing, listening to music who walks right past you, goes to the front of the line and picks up his coffee with a nice yellow ticket on it, you say, what just happened there? And you go and ask. And what we see, which is really incredible, is that the days where we have the most orders are the days we have the most registrations, because the orders themselves are driving the registration. So we do a little bit of work at the start to seed the process, but once you get 50, 70 orders a day at a restaurant, you can basically guarantee that at any time, if you're waiting in a 5 or 10 minute line, you're going to see some magician who has managed to skip it, and you want to do the same thing.
Huh. So tell us a little bit about where you guys have deployed and the kind of engagement figures that you're seeing. I think I saw something about you deployed at quite a few schools.
We have. Our very first school was in the Valley. We launched at Santa Clara University about 18 months ago, and it went viral. And basically there, everybody uses it. We have something like 60% of the students use the app every week, and they use it something like 5 times a week. So on our mature campuses, we're really a daily habit. People use it all the time because they're able to use us every time they want to buy something, which happens to be a lot. We, since Santa Clara, have grown and grown and grown. We tackle now more and more bigger, more, I guess, high brand schools. We moved to Los Angeles and did USC at the beginning of the school year. We're now in Arizona, northern Arizona, two huge schools in the mountain region, and we're basically spreading out big schools across the country. To date, we've launched at 27 universities. It's been 18 months, and we're really excited about it.
And what kind of lead time do these orders involve? I mean, if I'm a university student and I want to order breakfast while I'm still in my dorm room, do I need to do that, or do I need to wait until I'm down at the at the cafeteria? Does that depend on the university?
It depends on the traffic. Ideally, 4 or 5 minutes before you want to have your order, you place it. So, if you had an 8 o'clock class and a 9 o'clock class, and you have that 5 minutes before when one class is getting out and the other class, you want to make your order right before class ends, and you go on your way and you pick up your coffee and you can have it. That said, we can't make people prepare food faster. And so when everybody starts ordering on Tapingo, there remains some kind of a line. It's a virtual line. It's not an annoying line where you have to stand there and wait. You can continue with your life and do whatever you want to, but we can't speed up the food preparation time. So sometimes we'll see our printers are they have so many orders built up that your order isn't going to print out for 10 minutes because so many orders are being placed at the same Starbucks. And so, there are times when even when you order on Tapingo, you don't get your food in 90 seconds. But the great part about it is that there's one type of waiting which is really hard when you can't do anything else because you're stuck in line, and there's another type of waiting where you can watch TV, you can study, you can hang out with friends, and as soon as we give you the buzz that your food is ready, you go and you take care of it.
So why do you think this is working so well in a university environment?
Oh man, there's a few reasons. I guess number one and most important reason is that people adopt these kinds of services, or at least in Tapingo's opinion, when they're ubiquitous. So if I'm a consumer, if I'm even in the non-university space, if I go to work every day I eat lunch, there's probably 5 or 6 venues that I like to eat at, maybe 10. If you make an app and it's available at one of those venues, that's pretty cool. I could use it once a week. Maybe every other week I would forget, or I would go out to eat with a friend on the day that I could use it at that venue. And so I'm going to use this app not really as a lifestyle. I'll use it every once in a while. And if I'm not really an early adopter, I probably won't use it at all because it is different than the way I'm ordering the other 9 times during the week. In the university environment, we are able to acquire basically every single venue. And that's something that's really hard to do in a big city because everybody has different tastes and there's thousands of venues, and to disrupt every single consumer, you'd probably have to acquire a few thousand venues in a city like San Francisco. In a university, the retail is bounded by geography. Everything is on the campus, and so we are able to acquire a supply that you just can't do easily in a city environment. And so that gives consumers this feeling that, hey, I can now change the way I order. It's not like a niche thing. I don't do this when I go to Chipotle using Chipotle's app. I don't do this when I want to order Domino's using Domino's app. Anytime I want to buy something, I can go to the Tapingo ordering experience. And that's what makes the difference. And we see it in our statistics when we make available a high percentage of the total available transactions in your area, that's when we see disruptive results. If we have 5 or 10% of the venues in an area, we don't see the same kind of success we saw at Santa Clara or many other schools.
Okay. So do you think there are lessons learned from the universities that could be applied in other environments, or the challenge is just too much at this point?
Totally. I mean, I think this is going to work also in a city environment. It just takes a lot of resources to do it. The same principle applies. The problem is if you take, say, the delivery, online ordering and delivery, which is a puzzle that's been largely cracked. It's the same concept. If you're anywhere in San Francisco and you want to order Thai food, there are a few different sites you can go to, and you know that anywhere you are, you're going to be able to order from a few different restaurants. pickup is different because if you're in Manhattan and you're on 42nd Street, the Thai food on 14th is not an option for you. It might deliver to you, but you can't go pick it up. You only have the options in your 2 or 3 block radius that are relevant for you, and so you really have to have a high penetration of those restaurants in that 2 or 3 block radius to be a really disruptive lifestyle app for consumers in Manhattan. And so as Tapingo one day will approach the general market, we'll use the same principle, which is you have to be hyper-local. You have to have really high dense clusters of venues to make it so that at least for a few people it becomes a lifestyle.
So are there other markets that you're targeting or other use cases that you think make good examples?
Well, we've tried a couple different areas and we see good success. Universities are great because we have so much momentum and there's so many to go to. We also love the target market. It's a group of people who really haven't ever bought anything before, and so we're not telling them, hey, you've done this one way for the last 10 years, now go and try to do this a different way. A lot of our students just think this is the way you buy things. We see them, when they're on summer vacation, they go and they take an internship in a big city and they're saying, wait a minute, Tapingo doesn't exist in real life. This isn't how, I can't just do this everywhere. And so it's a great group of people to try out our service because they're so willing to take on something new.
And have such high mobile penetration as well.
Oh yeah, we used to think, okay, of a population, what percent's going to have a good smartphone, and now we don't even think about it. It's basically 100.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that there's more opportunity for Tapingo? I'm thinking, you mentioned summer internships. In 3 or 4 years, you're going to have people who have been very used to the service graduating and going out into the real world and maybe looking for it as well. Have you thought that long term?
That's the plan. That's not. That is the plan. Our average student ordered something like 100 times last year. And when you have somebody who's used your service 100 times, no matter what it is, they're going to want to keep doing it after. And so we're going to take advantage of that. So right now we're focused on the college space. We're building up a big merchant arsenal throughout across the country, and at some point we'll make the service available for the general population, and our loyal students will probably continue to order once they've graduated.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think are some of the lessons learned from universities that might be applied to contextual shopping by mobile in other environments?
Well, I think first of all, there's a big question about whether this is interesting. Mobile commerce is being talked about for many years, and not a lot of people have have any engagement. Everybody's sort of trying to tackle, how do I build this two-sided marketplace? I need to get merchants, and merchants want users. I need to get users, users want merchants. So how do I do it? And a lot of people doubt that it's possible to do right now. And I think what Tapingo has, if you go to Santa Clara, we call it Tapingo Land. That's how the world is going to look one day, and people are ready to do it now. You just have to build the ecosystem in the right way. So I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned, is that the world is ready now. There's nothing stopping us. All the technology is there. You have to build it. It's not easy. It took us many, many, many iterations on how to make both the consumer and the merchant satisfied, which is a real big challenge when you're doing 50% of their transactions. But you can do it. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of work, but people are ready to do it now.
Mm-hmm. And does this, just on a practical level, does it link to a student like dining account? Does it link to a credit card? Does that depend on the university? What's the arrangement for paying for things?
Yeah, totally. It was a rude awakening. We didn't even know that when I went to college, we didn't pay with our student cards always, but that's how it works now. Everybody's on some kind of declining balance or a meal plan on campus, or at least all the underclassmen are. And so we've had to integrate with the big providers of those services. So today, Tapingo works with a company called Blackboard, which has many campuses across the country, and we have a partnership with them where we can launch on any Blackboard campus and actually integrate directly with the student funds. And a large percentage of our transactions go on those cards. And if we didn't have it, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting to the students.
Mm-hmm. And so physically, just so that I understand the setup, you mentioned printers. There's on-site printers. Is there anything else that is set up on site?
We have a couple of different order transmission setups. You could have a merchant with a very smart, sophisticated point of sale that allows us to send the order directly through the point of sale to the existing printers, which is the ideal case for us and for the merchant because they just get to do business as usual. A lot of merchants don't even have a point of sale, but take it like a food truck. There's a lot of cash-only food trucks running around college campuses these days, but they have huge long lines, and that's probably the biggest deterrent to their revenue right now is the fact that there's just a huge line, and so 10 people every day are going to walk by and say, that's not for me. I'm going to go and grab something else, and that's $150 a day, which adds up to a food truck. And so we put our own equipment in there. Which we call it an active cashier. It's a little mini point of sale, which is an iPad mini connected to a thermal receipt print. It allows basically anyone anywhere to have a digital, a cloud POS that can accept orders from Tapingo.
Okay, great. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to talk about today?
I think that the biggest message I have is that wherever we go, the students love it. I mentioned some engagement statistics at Santa Clara and the fact that we're growing to big campuses like Arizona and USC are adopting the service, and basically everywhere we go we have the same result, which is that something like 30, 40, 50% of the students use the app each week, and they use it 3-4 times a week. So Tapingo is a daily thing. All the students love it. In terms of our growth on campuses, it's not a space that moves incredibly fast, but we've managed to go in just 18 months from the early adopting campuses to the big Tier 1 campuses of the country, and we're excited to move on from there. So if anybody's interested in adopting the service, we'd be happy to come.
Yeah, I know you had some really great statistics about growing engagement at nearly 200% a week at NAU, Northern Arizona, and more than 1,000 orders a day.
Oh yeah, and see that was on Monday. It's already out of date. We did 1,400 orders yesterday. It's growing so fast. I think that, like I said before, at some point there's a viral engagement loop that runs by itself. We don't really do anything to market to students anymore at Northern Arizona, but the students love the app, and everybody sees everybody else doing this, and it basically works for everybody. And on the supply side, the merchants have gotten over the growing pain of learning how to operate the service, and they prefer it. There's less mistakes, and if there are mistakes, it's usually the consumer's mistake, and so they can focus on what they do best, which is preparing food, and we can focus on what we do best, which is letting consumers have really good shopping experiences.
Okay, all right. Tapingo CEO Daniel Almog, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.